Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for my client Mike's Vlogs. And let's get right to it. We started with max effort bench press. He did a close grip bench with around 30 pounds of chains. I think it's around 30 pounds. I don't have the sheet directly in front of me, but he got 315. And of course he got it. This was actually pretty good. Again, this is close grip. He is a wider grip bencher. But then he made a weight bump. I'm not going to put his failure up there, and he missed the next one. I prefer if my guys don't miss, and so I'm not going to put that in there because we got a nice clean lift. But he did overshoot a little bit because that one felt too easy, so he made another jump and misjudged it, which also tells me might be time to work on the triceps again, because there's a pretty big gap at this point between his close grip and his wider grip. And even his wide grip is not ultra wide. It's pretty wide, but it's not out at the very edges of meat legal. So it might be time for us to go back and focus on his triceps more. These days, we've been a lot more pec and delt focused for Mike because his arms just grow and they're big anyways. But we're getting to that point. It might be time to assess that a little bit next block for him. So, we may be looking to do that. Might be time to work some JM presses and stuff back in, which he's good at. He likes. We did a lot of those in the past, right? We did a lot of those in the past because we've just been having him do like cable press downs and stuff lately, just to keep some tricep volume in while we've been focusing on other stuff. Again, we've been doing a lot of delt work and things. You guys will notice, we do like the seated overhead pressing and everything else. So again, might be time to focus on those triceps a little bit more. Right? Especially since he got really strong at the McDonald bar a while back. We took it out because it starts to inflame shoulders if you do it too long, and we've replaced it with dumbbells again. But I mean, he got to where he was doing all his rep work with over 200 pounds for sets of 10 with that McDonald bar. And, again, it's far more difficult, right? It's far more difficult. So, max effort day, we did a dead pin safety bar squat. A lot of people are like, "You're mean, dude. You're such a dick. Why are you making somebody do this?" Because Mike's an advanced lifter and we need these variations. You know what? But look at that. He got in and he had to do that awkward lift, but it looked good. It looked good, right? Got off those pins good. He got in position. And occasionally I like to do stuff like that with guys like Mike, Justin, some of these guys who are real strong and they're thick and they're in shape. Every now and then I have to throw something oddball at them like that on their max effort work just to break up the monotony of it, to make them strain against something awkward. So it really isn't about being mean so much as preparing them to be strong at every angle to learn to strain from awkward positions, right? So that we just get all around beast mode strong, right? That's what it comes down to. And then of course he did his seal rows, which I love seal rows, and I wish more people had the seal row benches like that. They're great. Of course, we did pull-ups on his upper day, and Mike does fine with pull-ups, so I leave them in there, rotate different types of pull-ups in for him, even though I've not been doing them again lately because of overuse. Mike handles them really well, so we use them. Right? He doesn't have those issues. Just like we do some of the seated overhead work. And I have quite a few of my guys do seated dumbbell overhead pressing. And I've thought about adding it back in myself. It's not bad at all, right? It's a good supplemental lift. And for the raw bencher, to be honest with you, I don't know that I'm a super big fan of the press these days. Other than people who want it for just running like a Big Four program. And that's fine. If a client wants that and they really care about their press, we'll train it. Not a big deal to me. I know how to program it. I just don't use it that much these days myself. For my lifters who don't care about their press, I don't bother with it for the most part. Not that often. A few do. So on his other movements though, we do safety bar good mornings. He does glute ham raises and reverse hypers, right? That looks a whole lot like my dynamic effort this week, doesn't it? Looks real close. By real close, I mean looks identical. what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So I have a lot of my clients run a lot of their supplemental work, their assistance work. It looks very similar to mine. On certain days if they have the equipment and they're really advanced lifters, why not? It's good setups. And I think that is a great combination when we need to build posterior chain. Good morning, glute ham raise, reverse hyper. It's a great combination. Great combination. Speaking of which, we probably want to have Michelle eventually start working some good mornings in. I want to get her strong on the reverse hyper though first. All right. Let me get her strong on the reverse hyper, and then we'll mess with it more. She used to do a lot of pause deadlifts and stuff. All right. We did chains this week. Mike hasn't been using chains lately, and I wanted to break up the monotony a little bit on his dynamic work. So we went with chains on his speed benching. He was going to do them for his speed squats, but he's like, I couldn't really get the setup right, so I went back to bands. I'm like, that's fine. That's fine. At least we did them on the bench. All right, we did them on the bench. And, these days I'm doing less chains than I would like, and it's just a noise issue. I'm trying not to make a lot of noise sometimes in the morning. Although, I really, really do like chains a lot. I do like chains. But, so that's what we did for him. And then, of course, kind of a dumbbell heavy day after that. All right, we do flat dumbbell presses. All right, we got him doing them flat dumbbell presses. We got him doing those seated dumbbell presses. Again, about hypertrophy, hitting various angles, right? And on dynamic days, especially for some of my advanced guys, I like to break those things up a little bit. We can focus a little more on these bodybuilding type movements. And especially for Mike, again, we're always trying to get him thicker. We're always trying to get him thicker. And it's not a bad combination, right? Speed bench. We can do flat dumbbell presses, do seated dumbbell presses for his delts. But like I said, we're getting to a point with Mike where it's like, we might want to start thinking quite a bit more about his triceps, right? We might want to start looking at the triceps a lot more. Might be at that time. If anything, though, I could probably benefit more from these seated dumbbell presses, right? I probably need them more than Mike does at the moment. If we're going to be perfectly honest, mainly because they work triceps also. And of course he does pull-ups on this day also. We do pull-ups. And of course I've got him doing some tricep press downs. But, I think we're at that point where we might need to work in some of those big movements again, right? Might be time to bring some of the big boys back in for the triceps, like the JM presses, which again, we used to do a lot of for Mike, but I've been trying to go easy on his elbows for a while, right? Been going easy on his elbows while we hammer this other stuff. But again, might be that time to where we start needing some close grip rep work, some JM presses, all right? Bring in the big guns, get those triceps growing. Because right now, that's where I'm seeing some potential weak link for him. His pecs and everything are doing great. We've done a great job building his pecs up. Speed squats. Did safety bar. And of course I wanted him to do chains so that we could stick on this bar this week, but he's really said they got in the way with the monolift. It was an issue because hitting the slings and stuff, so he just ran over and did bands. Of course, then he did bands for the sumos, and he said he felt really good with these this week, right? The sumos, he felt the cleanest setup he's had. They felt good. So we might be seeing his sumo go up, and it might be worth us looking at due to his leverages of kind of pushing the sumo a little bit harder in the future to get his deadlift up. Again, just noting that deadlift is always Mike's weakest lift. A lot of people expect this guy to deadlift 700 pounds, and they find out he's not anywhere near that. And it has to do with his levers. But we've been hammering his lower back really hard. But I think with all these belt squats and as thick as his lower body is, we might be at that point where his sumo, we might need to start maxing on it a little more. Sumo variations to kind of see where that's at and see if that's stronger than his conventional. Of course, and we do seal rows on this day. So we do a lot of pull-ups and seal rows right now for him. All right. Seated overhead press. It handles all of our upper back, shoulder girdle, everything. Again, belt squats on this day. We do belt squats, which, again, responsible for a lot of his leg size. You know, people look at his quads and are like, why is his quad so big? We built his quads off belt squats and machine work for the most part, right? That's really how we built his quads. It's not from volume squatting. You know, and I don't think it's necessary for us to do that, right? I mean, again, people have this idea that I only want to promote minimalist training or something, and that I don't like any machines. And I'm sorry, but nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, perfect example. You guys saw him on machines not that long ago. In fact, I may have put up a hack squat video before his gym got a new belt squat again. You know, so what have you seen us do with Mike? We've seen a lot of specialty bars, bands, chains. You see dumbbells. We've seen machines. We see cables. We see body weight exercises. So we use all of it, right? You see him doing 2 different machines in this. See him doing 2 different body weight exercises in this. 2 different dumbbell movements. You see a cable exercise. Okay? This is how I get guys thick and strong. Right? We train this way. We use these tools. I am absolutely in no way dogmatic about the tools my lifters use. And of course, Mike does GPP work. We do GPP work. So he's conditioned. He's in good shape. And we've been cutting. Right? We've been cutting. He's down to around 215 now. We bulked him over a long time up to 230. We've got him down to 215 and his strength is holding. And we're going to get him down to about 200 pounds. Right? Another 15 pounds of fat loss. Bring the belly down a little bit. You know, what's this guy going to look like? And we're not even chasing that. We're not chasing, look, he wants to be strong. The look is a side effect. Right? Look is a side effect. Because we have to train for hypertrophy. We got to train for body composition if we want health and relative strength. You want weight classes later. We've got to get leaner. Okay? But we maximize hypertrophy. Absolutely maximize it with my lifters. We have to. You know, and I always hate that when someone says something like, well, I'm worried about getting too big for my sport. Are you taking gear? If you're not taking gear, there is zero chance, even if you maximize your hypertrophy year-round, you're never going to get too big for most sports. You know, for most sports, maybe possibly some endurance sports. This is not a real fear. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.